What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm back. Finna continue this topic on Deion Sanders. So like I was saying, Deion Sanders, he left, um, Jackson State because Deion probably came to the conclusion that he had did all he can do at Jackson State, and when I say he basically did all he can do, he basically figured out there's only so much he can do for the university, as a head coach. I think Deion Sanders figured out why a whole lot of HBCUs are in the predicament they in. So let's talk about HBCUs and why a whole lot of HBCUs are in the predicament they in. See, a whole lot of HBCUs are not underfunded. The problem with a whole lot of HBCUs is, people in certain positions not doing what they supposed to be doing, with, the funding that the school's getting. That's, the problem with a whole lot of HBCUs. I'm speaking, from my experience, with HBCUs, being, familiar with HBCUs because a whole lot of people, from, the high school that I went to attended HBCUs. I was recruited by HBCUs. I visited HBCUs as a player, and, that's one of the reasons I decided not to go to HBCU. Just because of, that, and, the overall business function of HBCU is just, not up to par. The students are not taking care of, things, be late that don't supposed to be late. Financial aid, class schedules, just the whole overall, function of HBCU just not up to par, And I think, that's what Deion Sanders, started to realize, why am I doing all of this, when the people who over me, they steady, stealing money from the ticket sales, not taking the proper, precautions so, the students can be safe on campus. My vehicles keep getting broken into, things of that nature. So I think, that took a part in, why Deion Sanders left too, because she started realizing I'm in the middle. You know what I'm saying? Me being in the middle, I can only change what's underneath me. I can't change what's over me. And for everything to change, you got to be able to change, the top as well as the bottom. So, I figured, he really realized, it was only so much he can do, And let's talk about, everything that Deion Sanders did do at HBCU. And I'm going to give Deion his credit, I feel like, Deion Sanders, I feel like he did everything that he said he was going to do. Did Deion Sanders say he was going to bring awareness to HBCUs? Did Deion Sanders bring awareness to HBCUs? I think he did. Deion Sanders said he was going to have a major impact, on the football culture of HBCUs. He said he was going to make Jackson State, win the program. Did he do that? yes, he made a big impact on HBCUs. You know, with him being in that conference, you know, Jackson State performance, you know, improved, as well as, you know, other team performances, you know, because, you know, they had to compete against Jackson State. You know what I'm saying? So he did raise the level of competition, you know, at the HBCUs. You know, he did bring an awareness to HBCUs, you know, with, you know, he brought college game day to Jackson State. You know, like that never happened, and you know, that's never happened. You know, so he brought all kinds of awareness just to, you know, the city of Jackson. You know, he brought awareness to, you know, stuff that we probably would never paid attention to or never thought was going on. You know, and with him bringing awareness to situations like the water crisis, you know, I tapped into a couple students, you know, YouTube channels that attend Jackson State, and as we speak, you know, I think it was like a couple weeks ago, they were still saying that they don't have any water at Jackson State. So, you know, things like that is like, you know, really like bigger than, you know, football. You know, so I feel like, you know, when you look at, you know, what Deion Sanders was able to achieve while he was at, you know, Jackson State, you know, I feel like he did more, you know, for Jackson State and HBCUs in 3 years than a whole lot of people have done in like 20, 30 years. You know, so basically, with that being said, like, you know, if one man can change, come and, you know, have that type of impact. Don't get me wrong, now Deion Sanders, he's an exception. Now he's just not a, you know, ordinary person. You know, he's just not an ordinary person. But the thing about Deion was, you know, he came and he demanded change, you know, from, you know, everybody, you know, a part of, you know, what he was a part of. You know, he demanded change, and, you know, that's a problem with a whole lot of HBCUs and a whole lot of other, you know, other entities where they comfortable with losing. You know what I'm saying? They comfortable with, you know, they just comfortable with being comfortable. You know, so, you know, I felt like, you know, I don't feel like I know Deion Sanders, you know, he really like figured out, okay, you know what I'm saying, like, this all I can really do. You know what I'm saying? And you know, yeah, I think Deion Sanders did a lot. You know, he did more in 3 years than probably anybody, a whole lot of people have done in 20 years, they whole time being at those universities. So, you know, my whole what I thought about, you know, Deion Sanders leaving has changed, because I feel like, you know, Deion Sanders did, you know, way more than enough. You know what I'm saying? He did way more than enough. You know, with the practice field, you know, the new locker room, like, you know, stuff like that could have been being done, you know, if, you know, the people, you know, that run these institutions really cared about, you know, the students and the student body and everybody that's involved in those, you know, institutions and organizations. You know, so Deion Sanders really, you know, shed a light on the good and the bad of HBCUs. You know, so, you know, I really think, you know, I don't really have no problem with Deion Sanders leaving. I think, you know, he completed his mission, you know, at Jackson State. One thing I think Deion Sanders did wrong was, you know, with him making his transition from Jackson State to Colorado was, I think, he left, before he's supposed to leave. He announced, he was taking the job at Colorado, and while he had, one more game left, that bowl game, which they ended up losing, I think, by him making that decision, he really he shuffled the momentum of Jackson State, because he had a whole lot going on. He leaving Colorado. Everybody know he in Colorado. Now he trying to come back, you know what I'm saying, and coach at JSU for one more game and get the players back, you know what I'm saying, motivated when they, whole lot of them feeling like he abandoned them, and all kind of stuff that's going on, So they was all over the place in that bowl game and it showed, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like, he made the wrong decision. Not leaving, but when he left, he should have just, waited till after everything was said and done.
Okay, man.